Sun Devil fans, it is a partial victory Monday as we get to celebrate a huge upset in Tempe, but we also got to talk about a really unfortunate loss that the Sun Devils basketball team also suffered. Closing it out, though, ASU Sun Devils football gets some more reinforcements coming into the secondary. You're listening to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. My name is Richie Bradshaw, joined always by my good friend and co-host, Connor Drios. Today, we got to talk all sorts of good news about the Arizona State Sun Devils basketball team, a little bit of football as well. There is a little bit of a downside with basketball, but this podcast is mainly going to be nice and positive today. Speaking of which, this podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. As always, thank you guys so much for making the Locked On Sun Devils your first listen every day. Remember that this podcast is free and available on all platforms, which includes, but is not limited to, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts in a audio platform, but also on video platform. Me and Connor are here Monday through Friday on YouTube, giving you the best content in the whole world. You can follow myself on Twitter at RichieBrads36. You can follow Connor on Twitter at CDrios, and you can follow the Locked On Sun Devils page at LO_Sun Devils. So, Connor, we're going to go ahead and get right into this thing. Oh, real quick, humble brag. I got my wall pretty much all done now. You'll see the billboard of 70-7 from Tucson.
Yes, our audio listeners are very thrilled about your wall.
Yes, absolutely they are. I got my pennant, my helmets, diploma. That right there that you can't see is the Jail Mary. It's like a nice little portrait of it. But anyways, that's just a quick little humble brag that I got my ASU wall pretty much all finished behind me now. So the backdrop when you're watching the video platform is chef's kiss. But anyways, Connor, let's talk Victory Monday and an absolutely stunning victory that the Arizona State Sun Devils were able to pull off against the number 3 team in the country and a Pac-12 rival nonetheless, the UCLA Bruins.
ASU being unranked and knocking off the number 3 team in the nation. You started off the intro saying partial victory. Who cares about the other loss? Who cares? This was our championship. This was, unfortunately, will probably be the pinnacle of our season. That being said, in triple overtime, Arizona State takes UCLA down at home here in Tempe. Great win for the Sun Devils. I am sure great for all the East Coast people watching the Pac-12, all 12 of them watching this game late into the night. But Richie, well worth the wait, man. Well worth it. In a game that was incredibly back and forth, right? Like if you have told me that we would have won the game against UCLA, obviously we're shocked, right? With the way that the Sun Devils team has played basketball, maybe they've played some good halves, but not great. Essentially both halves of the game. The number 3 team in the nation, yes, we're shocked. We can't tell you that happened. That being said, it just how they won. What was I think the most surprising. They found the depth that we've been talking about, right? DJ Horn did his thing, was not the most efficient, unfortunately. Went 3 for 13 on the night. And all 3 of those shots were from behind the arc, which some of those were pretty great and crucial shots. So when he made them, I mean, it was definitely important and made 2 of his field goals. That being said, you got career games from guys like Marion Jackson. And then I don't think this was his.
We got to give him some major props, Connor.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely be talking about Marion here in just a second. I think so. The 16 from Alonzo Gaffney was not his career high. Or sorry, not Gaffney. Jalen Graham had 19 in the game against USC, which we'll talk about later. But 16 from Graham, which was definitely nice to have. All of your starters were in double digits. Now, partially, or not partially, a lot of that is due to the amount of minutes that they had played. So the fact they hit double digits is not the most eye-popping thing. We have to talk about 24 points from Marion Jackson. 7 of 18, 4 of 11 from deep, 6 of 8 on his free throws. And throughout this entire game, Richie, just clutch shot after clutch moment, clutch rebound, whatever it might be. While ASU was not perfect on the night, everything that they did, so offensively, defensively, rebound, steals, whatever it might be, everything accumulated to this win for the Sun Devils.
Dude, 100%. And the funny thing with Marion Jackson is he still played a very Marion Jackson game, because there were all sorts of shots that he took where you're sitting there and you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, they just...
Notably,
like,
what was it, the one at the end of the second half, or was it the one at the end of the first
it was the end of first overtime, and it was just so stupid. He had to have been at least 5 or 6 feet behind the arc, and that thing just nice and high. Like, it was a rainbow shot, but unfortunately it truly wasn't close. And you're sitting there and you're like, come on, man. Like, that's a boneheaded play right there. But
he yelled Curry, but it was Seth Curry, not Steph Curry. So
exactly.
No offense to his brother. His brother's actually a really solid player, but regardless.
Yeah, we're not about dissing any of the Currys, that's for sure. But it felt like a very Marion Jackson game, but one of his more efficient games. I mean, he was shooting a little under 50%. He was probably right around that 40% range, which for him is pretty good. He was pretty solid from deep as well. 6 of 8 on his free throws. That's not perfect, but we'll take it. 24 points overall, though. Marion showed up, and Marion was terrific. But not only was Marion terrific, but his supporting crew was really good too. All 5 of the starters had at least 10 points, so everyone hit double digits. You had Jalen Graham was just like this monstrous dude who wasn't going to be stopped at any point during the game. Threw up 16 points of his own, 6 of 13 on his field goals, 4 or 5 on his free throws, 10 rebounds, Connor. I mean, the dude was just playing really tough inside the paint, right underneath the hoop. Wherever you needed Jalen Graham, he seemed to be there and producing for you. The rest of the team looked really good too. I mean, for DJ Horn to put up 11 points when he's 3 of 13 on his field goals is pretty dang solid. If he is a little more efficient, I mean, the obvious here is that ASU wins the game in regulation and not overtime. But overall, ASU put up a very competitive 40 minutes of basketball and then an extra 15 minutes in overtime. So very, very impressed. Like you said, this is the pinnacle of our season. This is our championship game. So unbelievable. And you did it in Tempe too. So the home crowd got to storm the court. It was just
always
so
great,
cool
man.
to watch. Yes.
What I will say is there's going to be some people out there going to work on Monday today or throughout this week, and they're going to say, hey, did you catch that ASU game, to all their U of A buddies? And they're not going to care.
Nope.
Like, they don't care. Seriously. Like, was this a great win for ASU? Yeah. Are they worried about having to go to Tempe for their next game? No. Like, it's not that ASU is a team that's going to seem to roll over for people, because there's been a handful of games where they just did not seem to show up at all. But for the most part, ASU seems to hang tough decently well in the first half. And in the second half, they just can't seem to close some of these games out. And obviously this was not only the second half, but in overtime was going blow for blow with UCLA, ending up pulling out that win. So it's not that this win should not be celebrated, because this is going to be something that's talked about for years at ASU, and it should.
Yes.
It's a big win for the program.
Yes, 100%.
It's not like we're one of the best teams in the nation also taking on the number 3 team UCLA and coming away with that victory, which would still be a good win. But that being said, like, this was for a moment in time, this was a Cinderella story for people in Tempe, right? So great win regardless, but is this going to mean a whole lot going forward? No. Unless they can build upon it, right? Like, we can't come on this podcast and say that they're going to just start annihilating people that aren't as good as UCLA. That's probably not going to happen. What went well for ASU in this game, right? It took a career game from Marion Jackson. It took great production from guys like Jalen Graham, who's been consistent, or I shouldn't say consistent, but who has been at least a producer at different points throughout the season. It just, a lot of things went right for ASU for them to win by 3. And it's not that some of this isn't earned, but like, you look at UCLA's overall essentially percentages, points by their team, they shot 22% from beyond the arc. Again, defense has always been a thing for ASU throughout this year. Very rarely does it seem like they break down consistently on the defensive side of the ball. But for UCLA to shoot 22% behind the 3-point line and they lose by 3, like, if they're shooting at 25%, 30%, those still aren't good numbers, and they end up pulling out this win. So in my opinion, it's a great win, but a lot of things have to go well for ASU in order for something like this to happen. Now, can they do this on a more consistent basis? We can't say yes or no. Hopefully, this is something they can build upon, right? They snap a 4-game losing streak. Richie, you win your bet of 0.5. You took the over on this 5-game stretch against ranked opponents. So good for you. I did not have the confidence that would happen. But I mean, even in the stretch, really the second half against USC, the first time that we played them, and then kind of the second half against U of A, they didn't necessarily hang in that game like they did the first half. ASU's playing some of these teams pretty tough. Not so much as in we should be winning these games, but again, to my point earlier, it doesn't seem like they're rolling over at all. Maybe they can build upon it, but as of right now, we got to keep our hopes pretty level, right? Be excited when you go to work in on Monday. That's definitely the place that you should be. It's just not we're going to the NCAA tournament. We're going to win the Pac-12. Might want to hold off on that for now.
We're winning out. What
did I just say? What did I just say?
Here's what I will tell you, just real quick, just play devil's advocate, and to a much lesser extent. This is the kind of win, Connor, that jumpstarts any kind of confidence and really starts to build upon whatever you're trying to get going. Arizona State does play U of A tonight, and I do believe we're going to Tucson, if I'm not mistaken.
We went to Tucson before.
So we got them in Tempe.
This was a 3-game homestand, USC,
That's right.
UCLA,
yes, thank you. Yes.
Tucson.
So this is a really good opportunity for Arizona State to come out and silence their rivals. I mean, could you imagine what would be going on with this basketball team if they somehow were able to topple U of A as well? Like, we can't count them out because it's a rivalry game. We truly can't. But at the same time, you're building upon this confidence of taking them the number 3 team in the nation, Connor. There is a thing called momentum, as you and I both know. And ASU might be able to capture a little bit. And I'm not saying this turns around their season. I'm not saying, like you said, they're not winning the Pac-12. They're not like heavyweights to make the tournament. They're not out of it, but they shouldn't be considered like locks to make it either. But there is that opportunity now that you've got this win to get your season back on track. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and hop into our first break. When we return, unfortunately, we do got to talk about a loss when ASU dropped a game against the USC Trojans earlier last week. But first, we got to talk to you a little bit of our friends over at BetOnline.
That's right, guys. So BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football continues to march through the playoffs right to the big game in just a couple weeks, BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports, scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just football. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And again, thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every single day. As a quick reminder for you guys, it is Super Week brought to you by Get Upside, and there's no better place to get coverage of the big game than the Locked On NFL podcast. Locked On Bengals and Locked On Rams are in Elway all week covering the big game. Connor, unfortunately, not everything in the realm of Arizona State basketball is a good thing, as we both know, because we'll be honest and call a spade here. Unfortunately, Arizona State did get outmatched and outplayed by the USC Trojans in Tempe. This was their second matchup, and even though it was a quote-unquote close game, it truly didn't feel like a very close game. Like, USC played some pretty sloppy basketball that allowed Arizona State to keep it within 5, and because of that, Arizona State covered, which is funny. Like, and especially remember we had talked about, like, the line was what, like 5.5 or something like that.
5.5, and somebody on this podcast took USC to cover.
Yeah, could not have been me. But funny enough, Arizona State did cover the game. Unfortunately, they did not win the game.
What does Vegas know that I don't know? I need to know this information. Apparently.
A lot.
Anyways, I'm not upset about it anymore, clearly. But we talked essentially, I think this was with Donnie when we were previewing this game a little bit, Richie.
Yes, it was.
What we needed to do in order to be able to hang with USC was stop Isaiah Mobley. And it wasn't so much a stop, more like a contain. Did not necessarily go off. Was only 5 of 14. Was 2 of 4 behind the three-point line. Only ended up with 12 points. So all things considered, you kind of did what you needed to do against Mobley. And it's not so much hey, our best player played bad, and that's why we lost. DJ Horn did not have a good game. Went 1 of 12, only made one of his shots from deep out of 8, only had 4 points in the game. So, yes, your star did not necessarily play well. Our star played worse. And maybe I'm even using the word star a little too loosely, but it's not like almost what I was saying against UCLA where everything just went ASU's way. They didn't get production out of Horn like they needed to. So, and he's one of the reasons that we need to talk about why they didn't win this game. Horn was a big letdown, right? Only making one shot and essentially only had one free throw attempt and made 1 point that way. If he's just shooting at a 30% clip from the field, like that's nothing spectacular, and especially it's below his standards for this season, you end up winning this game. Now, everything changes, right? We can't just change things and saying, well, this would have happened and we would have won. It just is what it is. But overall, the team shot very poorly from deep, arguably their worst game of the season. I don't remember their percentages off the top of my head. Richie, do you know how poorly they shot from behind the three-point line this game against USC?
This game, I got it pulled up right in front of me, bud. So why don't you just tell the good people?
14%. 14.3%, which is half of what their average is on the season. And they're not a good team shooting from deep. That's not acceptable. Shot essentially 33% as a team, made 75% of your free throws, but again, didn't necessarily have that much volume at the line. Only shot 6 of 8 as a team versus USC going 16 of 25. That trend just continues where ASU does not seem to have the refs on their side a little bit, and they can't necessarily get to the free throw line. But Richie, this game, while you said it didn't feel very close, USC took the lead at the very, very last second. Back and forth game, lead changes several times, but ASU was in command up until the last couple of minutes, and USC just skipped right by them, man. And unfortunately couldn't do it by 6 points. They had to do it by 5. But that's for another reason.
Nobody here feels bad for you, Connor. Not a single person. So go ahead and take your pity and just take it somewhere else. But
I had to talk to people on Monday. I told them that this was free money. USC covering 6.5 or 5.5. Easy peasy.
Yeah, all 3 of your best friends are going to be really upset about taking your advice on that one.
That was rough, man.
I love you so much. I am one of those best friends. I have some kind of self-respect to not bet against my Sun Devils most of the time. But anyways, neither here nor there. Connor, you got to get better consistency out of DJ Horn here. For him to go 1 of 12 and be your star player is completely unacceptable. Like, that just can't happen. And we saw it again 2 days ago against UCLA, where he just wasn't able to consistently shoot the ball effectively. And we're not asking him to shoot 50%. We're not asking him to put up 15 to 20 points a game, but he needs to be a more reliable guy than he was. And Marion Jackson was barely on the court. He was doing a really good job distributing the ball, something that actually is a strength to Marion's game. But unfortunately, he only took 5 shots. He only made 1 of them. So your star players, or at least your guys that you rely on to put up points the most for you, didn't show up. But again, just like 2 nights ago against UCLA, Jalen Graham showed up again. He put up 19 points. He was 9 of 14 on his field goals, went up and got 5 rebounds as well. Jalen Graham's been playing really, really tough for you lately. So if you can find a way to get consistent production from Horn, Marion, and Jalen Graham, I like your odds to finish the year at that 500 level that I was hoping you could find yourself in. So right now, getting that kind of production from Jalen Graham is huge, and you have to be really excited about it moving forward.
Now, in their last, they were on a 4-game losing streak, and now they're in their last 5 games. They're now 1-4. We keep talking about trying to get to 500, but this streak that you're going through right now is the toughest streak you're going to go through all season long.
Yes.
Bar none. That is so easy to say, right? So it's not that there's a bunch of easy opponents in the Pac-12, which there's definitely a handful towards the bottom that ASU still has yet to play. And then there's still some tougher teams that ASU still have to play as well. So ASU will have maybe, I don't want to call them gimme games after one good win against a UCLA team, but ASU will have that opportunity. So they're just going through a really tough stretch right now. I will play a little bit of devil's advocate to what you said earlier. DJ Horn, I expect 15 out of him every single game. Like he's averaging more than that for the most part. Last couple games have been a little bit rough, but Horn's got to be better than that, man. Now, yes. He is a human being. He is a college kid. He's allowed to have off games. It's just generally the team has to understand if Horn's not playing well, the team's probably not playing well. Not a perfect example of that for them to only lose by 5 against USC. This is
Right.
more of an example where the team rallied around and was able to almost overcome DJ Horn's poor shooting night. So, but chances are, if he's not playing well, who is your best player, clearly, you're not going to be able to win many games with that.
No, totally. And I mean, playing on that point a little bit more, just like we talked about previously about the UCLA game, where if he is even a little bit more of a consistent shooter, you win that game in regulation. You only lost by 5. If he makes half of his shots, Connor, you win that game. So you need that kind of consistency, like you said, from your best player, from your top scorer, or you typically aren't going to win games. The fact that ASU has hung in these games is a huge testament to the great team play that they're putting up right now. But if they got that consistent scoring and shooting out of their top player, there's not a doubt in my mind that we would have won at least the last 2 games and maybe a few other games as well. So we'll go ahead and cut it there. When we return for our final segment, we got to talk some good news for the Arizona State Sun Devils football team and some reinforcements that are coming into the secondary. But first, I got to tell you guys a little bit about our friends over at Built Bar. This is the time of year that I've pretty much given up all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really sticking to a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you ever tried Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow bars. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamony churro, coconut, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're so good, they're going to be your new favorite. Built Bars are also covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, that includes the Puffs, 100% real chocolate. Go to built.com, scroll down to that macros chart, and you'll be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Plenty of different flavors to choose from as well, from mint brownie to coconut almond, and new for the month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. At Built Bar, they're all about taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy next. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% at builtbar.com. And as we return for the final segment here, Connor, we got some necessary reinforcements in the secondary, this time in the form of Khoury Bethley. Very excited about him. Very, very productive at Hawaii with some ball skills. Connor, it's kind of hard not to be excited about this pickup. Connor, hold on a second. I can't hear you. Yeah, I don't think your mic's going right now.
But now,
Yep, there you go.
okay. Sorry about that. So what I was trying to say, I was making all these great points, and nobody could hear that. I'll just kind of reiterate that. So this is now the second safety to be able to transfer to us over like the last week and change. We talked a little bit with you last week that Chris Edmonds was going to be transferring to us, who's a little bit more of that strong safety kind of build, 6'2", 215. But now Khoury Bethley coming in to potentially fill the free safety position, standing at 5'10", 195. Bethley was it looked like he was a former running back when he first got to Hawaii. And they said, no. Like, we're putting you as a DB. So we'll see what he can offer the Sun Devils. Essentially, he'll be going into his senior season, I believe, because he started at Hawaii in 2018.
Yes, this will be a graduate senior season for him.
Graduate senior. Okay. So then he had obviously the COVID season, but has had some solid production. Last year, most notably, had 5 interceptions. So definitely something to talk about. He had a pick 6 on one of those as well with 1 touchdown, 2 forced fumbles, and 4 sacks. So I don't know what they were feeding him, Richie, but whatever he did this season clearly was his best year. I don't know overall if he was just getting more time on the field. I haven't seen snap percentages or anything like that, but had the most tackles he's ever had, most solo tackles he's ever had at 99 and 72 respectively, most assisted tackles at 27, 6 pass defense, which tied a career high, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, which were career highs, again, 5 picks, all career highs. So dude's clearly coming off his best year, looking at more exposure. ASU might be just the place to do that for him.
100%. And I mean, there is a clear starting role for him. That's the best part, right? Is he is going to get on the field. There's no doubt in my mind. He is almost instantly the best player in your secondary right now. And forgive me, what the other guy we got?
You're talking the other safety you were just talking about, Chris Edmonds?
Yes, Chris Edmonds. Thank you. Yes. So between him and Chris Edmonds, suddenly you've actually shored up your safety position, at least on the surface. And with guys who have been productive and with guys who have any kind of experience right now, you still got our guy, Jordan Clark, who I'm very excited for. And from here, it's just kind of figuring out some kind of chemistry with the rest of the guys. So you suddenly went from going into an offseason where you had almost nobody in that secondary. You were banking on Jordan Clark to make a huge step forward. And after that, it truly was going to be a mystery on what was next. Suddenly you've got a little more experience. And with Khoury Bethley, especially, Connor, you have ball skills. Bethley, excuse me. Yes, Khoury Bethley, you have ball skills in the secondary now. That guy had 5 picks, like you said. He had 2 forced fumbles, like you said. He had 99 tackles, like you said. He had 4 sacks, like you said.
I might just start changing his name. I can't get off the Bentley thing. I might just start calling him like Corey Ferrari or like Corey like Kia or something like that. Just keep changing the next area's last name every time we talk about him. If people have listened to this podcast, this specific episode, they'll understand the inside joke. But Corey Bentley, that's going to be stuck in my head, man. Very sorry.
You are too funny, my friend. I don't know what tangent. I don't know what I would do without you, but you are something special and a very good special, Connor. We love you to pieces here. But back to the point at hand, Connor, this is a very exciting transfer. It might honestly call me crazy. This might be the best transfer that you've gotten so far in the offseason. I truly believe that.
I'm still going to hold out for validate. Now, granted on who you're talking to, like talking about specific recruiting levels, like in terms of stars, he's a former 3-star player, which granted, like, I don't care what recruiting level you were. Nesta Jade Silvera, right, was a former 4-star player that transferred from Miami. If you were a 4-star going in, but not a 4-star kind of player coming out, versus maybe the opposite, where if he was a 3-star kind of safety going to Hawaii, if he's better than that now, people would be able to look back and say, you know what, maybe he was a little bit better than the ranking that we gave him, or he's played at a higher level. That's great. Until I see people on the field, I'll kind of hold my opinions on kind of just to myself. But as of right now, like what happens if even if they do take some of your starting safety positions, which is great, what happens if one of them gets hurt? What does our depth look like? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it feels like we have the pieces at a surface level, like you had mentioned. They kind of seem to be fitting into place, which not a huge surprise. Herm Edwards said they're going to be hitting the portal transfer hard, and that's what they've done. So we'll see how it all kind of plays out with whoever our new defensive coordinator is going to be, whatever that scheme looks like. We'll see. It's definitely a lot to be excited about with all these new faces because there's something exciting about the unknown, right? We know that some of the graduating players who may have been very good, we know what we're losing. Maybe some of the other players who didn't offer us a ton, we also know what maybe could have been improved upon as well. So whether that's some of our starting players or even our depth, there's going to be areas for these players to step in and improve right away. And hopefully they're going to be able to do just that at that secondary position.
I'm very, very excited about it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up this Victory Monday edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, you can make sure to follow myself on Twitter at RichieBrads36. You can follow Connor at CDrios. You can follow the Locked On Sun Devils page at LO_Sun Devils. Speaking of which, free and available, all platforms, Monday through Friday. It's the best Sun Devils content in the entire world. And we're everywhere. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Odyssey, Stitcher, pretty much wherever you get your podcast audio platform-wise, we're there. Video platform-wise, me and Connor are also on YouTube. You can see our beautiful faces. You can see my expressions with my hands. And at the beginning of every podcast, obviously, I'm dancing and having a good time. And yeah, Connor doesn't know what to do with his hands right now.
I just put him somewhere. I think by my side or something. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Go ahead and make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. And until next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.